This is Abnormal Entertainment.
2, 3, 4.
Walked into the tunnel just to find the light. Hunted for old demons, looking for a fight. Looked up at the stars, seemed to go forever. There must be a way, it all fits together. Fell into the quicksand, held on to the vines. Never could quite color, stay within the lines. Feels like I have wings, I can fly wherever. This is just a way, it all fits together. Finally saw the world through rose-colored glasses. Gonna share my journey to small and large masses. Give up on my life, no sir, me never. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together.
Hey everybody, this is Daniel Garza. Welcome to another episode of Put It Together. I'd like to start as usual thanking my producer, Mr. Kevin Morris, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Inviting all of you to check us out at abnormalentertainment.com, where you can find all the shows on the network. Be sure to check me out at Put It Together Podcast on Facebook. You can also find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter under Daniel G. Garza or at Little Mexican, LALMESICAN. Go check that out. A lot of new projects are coming up for 2019, so make sure you follow us, friend us, like us, so that you can get informed. Today, I want to get started. I have Mr. Francisco. How you doing, sir?
Good, man.
You look sharp.
Thank you very much.
Nice.
I knew you were coming, so I had to get dressed.
You know, I like when people dress up for me because respect, man. Respect the Garza.
Yeah.
We were chit-chatting a little bit about how we met first. Mm-hmm. But for those of you who have followed me for a while know that I did promo work for a long time. I still kind of do. I do a lot more staffing now. But for a long time, we were out there in the trenches, sweating and giving away free stuff to people. I was about to say crap. Free stuff to people.
Sometimes it was crap. It really was. At least to us, because we were so used to handing crap out.
Yes. How long did you do promos?
You know, that one's hard to nail down too. I think my very first experience was at Fisher Price in San Diego. My buddy, okay. All right, I'm thinking. All of a sudden, these memories just flooded me at once. Okay, when we met, I was probably say a year into it of actual brand ambassador promotional work. So that entails getting hired by a company as an independent contractor and then handing out whatever stuff it is. It may be a sample of a protein bar, the new chips, or crap like pens and notepads, whatever, anything that would excite people for whatever brand we were representing. So at that point, it was probably about a year into it, and my buddy hooked me up. He goes, "Hey, do you want to go down to San Diego? We're going to work for Fisher Price for 3 days." I think that they were comping his hotel, so it was kind of a getaway at that point, and the pay was pretty good. Like at that point, I was like, yep, that doesn't sound too bad. I get to hang out with my buddy. We're going to go do something, afterwards, and we're getting paid, like, done deal. Let's go do it. So, yeah, that was probably the first introduction, and that's kind of like what tipped off as my promotional career and eventually led to me meeting you.
Yeah, so for those of you that have been following for a while, you know that I have this page called the Brand Ambassadors of Greater Los Angeles Area, which has been around since 2011. We have over 25,000 members on there. So if you're listening to this and you want to hey, I want to do promotions, I want to give away free stuff, find me on that.
Yeah, if you're in LA or anywhere around that area and you're not part of that group and you want to get into that industry, you're missing out.
I do have to brag. We are the biggest page nationwide.
It's huge. I remember, I think you were celebrating maybe getting your 1,000 members, something like that. And I think eventually it was 10,000, and then I saw 20,000. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've gotten some great connections from that page.
And friends have been coming out of there. I know people have dated coming out of there. I've been to events just to go hang out, and people on there hear my name, and they're like, "Are you Daniel Garza?"
Yeah, that's cool.
And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me, mofos."
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. I do have to brag about it. In fact, I just got invited to the Facebook Facebook admin page. So there's a special page just for admins that have huge pages.
Yeah,
and you have to be invited to that group. I just got invited to that group.
Super cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So, but now you're not doing promos anymore.
Now I'm not. I'm not doing promos for that industry, if you will.
So let's, Francisco, tell us how you put it together.
How am I putting it together? Still putting it together. Let's see. So, thinking as far back as I possibly can to where it probably started for when people tell their story about how they put it together. I remember being younger and telling my parents, I saw someone at school selling these lollipops. They were essentially blow pops, and they had found a way to melt a Jolly Rancher around it, and they were selling it for 50 cents, which was kind of pretty cool because I knew what the two ingredients were. They just melted it, and then they came around, and people loved it, and she was able to sell it. So I remember that sticking in my head. That was probably 6th grade. So then 7th grade, I moved to a different school, and I told my mom, I said, "Hey, I want to buy a box of Jolly Ranchers, and I want to go to the school and sell it." And so I loaded up my backpack, and I started selling a few here and a few there. I think we got, to like recess time, and that's where I found somebody had gone in there, and they took my goods. They took my inventory. Yeah. And they were eating it right in front of me. The thing is, they were bigger than I was. So there was nothing I could really do, but that was kind of my first entrepreneurial endeavor.
That was the first takeover that somebody did on you.
Yeah, so that was a pretty tough lesson to learn. But I still always had that in me. I always had to go do something, go get something, whether it was, I guess when we were younger too, we also had this cool idea that you could just set up a lemonade stand and you could sell lemonade. So I never went through with that aspect of it, but there was still that kind of spirit like, oh, you can go out and you can sell something. And then through elementary school, there were chocolate drives. So the school would bring someone over, say, here's a bunch of chocolate bars, sell them. You get these cool sunglasses or headphones or whatever it was. And one year, they brought them over and they said, all right, the best sellers are going to go to Disneyland, which was huge. This was 7th or 8th grade. And I said, yeah, I'm going to be one of the top sellers and I'm going to find my way to Disneyland. Because not only did you go to Disneyland for free, but you also got to go during the school day.
Ooh.
And you got to hang out with your friends. So it was a big deal. So I did everything I possibly could. I was out over in post offices. I went door knocking, getting told no, getting told yes, selling boxes and boxes and boxes. I would love to pride myself and say, I sold all the boxes, but I didn't. We fell a little short, and I know that my mom paid for it.
Did you go to Disneyland?
We went to Disneyland because essentially the chocolate company just wants to see the money. They don't care how you sell it. They just want to see that a certain amount was met, and a certain amount was met, and then you're off to Disneyland.
Now, I get the feeling that drive is going to be consistent in your story.
Yeah.
But just before we get too far ahead, where did you learn that, or where did you get that from?
Just examples around me, just being aware of it. I really don't know. Like that first idea, having seen someone put together a Jolly Rancher around a lollipop, apparently affected my life, and that carried on to other things.
And the drive to be the best.
I don't know. It's partially competitive, other like explorative. It wasn't when you're a little kid. I wasn't thinking I'm going to be the best. I was like, let me just go see what happens. I still felt like I was exploring.
Okay.
I still feel like that today. Although now I have more of a competitive drive and awareness that I want to be in the position of being the best, there still has to be that kind of explorative, like, let me go try, let me see what happens. I think that everyone's kind of got that.
Got it.
Because the minute that you lose that, then you may not be the best because you've already reached your ceiling. And if that's as far as you can go, then really what's the point?
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So you're selling chocolates, you go to Disneyland. that triggers your, your business side, your entrepreneurial side, does it?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess from there to kind of bridge the gap forward, I'm trying to think what the next big thing was. But I was into music when I went to high school. And after high school, I said, you know what? I want to go and learn more about music. I want to perform. I want to be a rock star, right? And so when you start that endeavor, you've got to be able to find fans to show up to your shows, because back then, it probably still works like that now, is you had to pay to play. So you go to a promoter who has a venue. He says, here's 50 tickets. If you want to play on Saturday, you have to have these 50 tickets sold and you're good to go. If you don't, you're not going to get hired for the next one or whatever. And you know what? It could be that nobody shows up to the show, but you paid for all 50 tickets. They just want to see the money, right? Yeah. It would be even better if you can get people to show up to your show. And our first show that we had as a rock band, which I was the lead singer for, we sold all 50 tickets. And we had people show up. It was a great first show. It was at Chain Reaction in Anaheim. An all-ages place. And it was our first show. Fantastic showing for a band that essentially was unknown. And for the promoter, they were like, dude, this is fantastic. Can you guys do, if something going to be short notice, and they wanted us to sell something like 75 or 100 tickets, which is significant. Like, not only was it a little bit of a challenge to get 50, then to stretch out to 75 or 100. And so being in that position of the lead singer and the guy who was getting all the gigs, I then was motivated not only to get these shows, but then I had to share that motivation, inspire the members of the band to sell their tickets. So now I'm put in a position where now I'm managing people. And a lot of people don't realize that sometimes with your art, you've got to be able to sell it. And I was driven. I was doing everything I possibly could to get these guys motivated. Try to understand what motivated them. Like, what do you guys want when you become a rock star? Because we're going to get that. And reminding them about that. And then how do we get them to go beyond their friends to sell tickets, right? And not only that, but how do you go to them more than once? Because you're going to have more than one show. And right now, you've got to develop that core base. Right. So, I wanted to perform and I wanted lots of people there. So that was very easy to get motivated to go do that. And I'd be on the phone and I'd call these people up, my friends. And I'd get on the phone and I would genuinely be interested in the conversation, but I knew that the end game was get to my show. And it was cool because I got to connect with them for an hour or 2 hours. That's how long I'd be on the phone.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was a talker. I don't know if you could tell.
No. But that's determination.
Yeah.
I mean, to have that salesman gene in you, to know that there's a point. You want to get somewhere.
Yeah, and I think that it's also not so much a salesman gene. I think that it's also naivety. Like, I didn't know any other way. Like, I wanted to go I wanted to put a band together, so I met with some people who helped me do that. I wanted to make music. I wanted to sing. Now I wanted to perform it. In order to do that, I had to sell tickets, so there was no other choice.
Right.
I just being completely unaware and just going for it. It had to get done that way.
So, would you say you're a head first or a feet first jumper?
When I was younger, I went in head first. I didn't think about it. And now that I've gotten beat up a little bit, and I guess I've become a little more self-conscious to what I was back then. Yeah, I think I'm a little more of a little bit of both. I don't know if that comes with age, experience, or I don't know. I really don't know.
As somebody older, yes, you definitely where the the deeper end is, that you know you can go in head first, and you know where it's not.
Yeah.
And you jump feet first. Yeah. So
I guess being younger and dumber, you don't realize there's any consequences.
Yeah,
so you don't think
clue.
about it with
No clue.
whatever your actions are. And then when you're older, you go, oh, well, let me think about every possibility. And sometimes as a business guy, you think, well, you know, what kind of financial risk is involved, what kind of financial reward, which is a smart thing, but then sometimes you can also get caught up in that and it just spoils some of the activity.
I think as humans, we like to overanalyze. We like to dissect an idea. And we get that gut feeling. You're like, this is going to work. And then you're like, well, let's just think about this first.
Here's the thing. I hate overthinking. I hate overanalyzing. And I do it a lot. Part of it is fear. Part of it is the unknown. And sometimes we're pushing ourselves into something that's completely different. Like for so long we've had a comfortable way, and then, you know, then that kind of changes.
Do you think some of the fears that you have now are consequences of things that you did during that time, during that youth, when you were rocking and rolling?
No, I think that for so many years of not getting to a certain point. So, for example, with the band, I thought that that was my sweetheart that I was going to marry and be with forever. And then eventually when it all fell apart, I was brokenhearted and I thought I could never see anybody again. So I had to take a step back. So I pulled myself away from what I was passionate about because it didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. Then I guess the next major endeavor for me after that was going into real estate investing. And when all the wheels were moving and I was going nowhere, again, I had to step back and go, man, like, what's going on here? So it was too much. After that point, where I was just going and going and going without thinking, I had to pull away, step back, and I was like, all right, let me think a little bit more. And then I went into a mode of, how do I do things right versus how do I get things done now? You know, and the difference being that, how do I get things done now? Action, you know, and then getting hurt by those actions or feeling like you've done something wrong, which is not a bad thing, but I put too much weight on that. I put too much weight on failure. I put too much weight on looking bad. Was
there a common denominator in those failures that you have understood now?
The common thing is that they were all failures, which is not a bad thing. And the other common thing was the weight that I put on that.
Okay.
So
expectations?
It's also expectations.
Okay.
Because I expected to be a rock star, and I thought that being with one band was going to propel me. What I didn't realize is that I could have done that with another band. I could have done it with anybody else. The same way that when you date someone beyond your first ex, you realize, oh my gosh, there's life after that. And then shortly after that, you forget that it even happened. You know?
Got it.
So that was the mistake that I made. I didn't do a good job of forgetting too soon, too quickly.
Okay. Okay, get it. So some of the lingering bruises and
the pain,
scars.
man. Yeah, some of it hurts. And then when they kind of happen consecutively, you go, well, what's going on? You know?
Did doubt in yourself ever kick in?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, when I was in music, more than anything, that exposed my vulnerabilities. One of my very first experiences in college was I went to Cal State Long Beach, and I walked in there. So I think that they do their majority of their enrollment in the fall time, and then springtime they kind of let some people in, and I just happened to be one of those people. Okay. Not only that, I was also put on a probation basis. So I had to prove my way in. So I was allowed for the quarter, and that one quarter was going to determine whether I was going to continue or not.
Got it.
So I walk in by myself, not knowing anybody, onto the music department. And the music department on that campus is separate from every other department. So it's a good 10-minute walk before you hit another artery of that campus. And then once you get there, then you can intermingle with the different departments. So the music department was completely on its own, which made it unique because then everyone there if they didn't know each other, at least recognized each other's faces.
Got it.
So it was small enough where you knew that someone, like, you look familiar. How do I know? Okay,
Got it.
especially with a campus as large as Cal State Long Beach, that was kind of a big deal. And that was made evident to me when I go onto a bench near to where other musicians gathered after choir. It was after a choir. They let out, or they were about to go in, and they met at a bench. I didn't know that, so I sat down, and a very attractive girl goes, "Hey, you're new here." And I go, "What do you? Was it that obvious?" She goes, "I know all the faces here." And it turns out that she was very popular, a very good singer, and she took a liking to me, and she introduced me to the other singers there. And we got together and just kind of like get to know these people, and then we would have what was it called? It was something like we'd all get together. There's probably a group of, like, I don't know, let's say there's 100 students in an auditorium, and one at a time a student would go up there and sing. And we'd probably have about, I don't know, like 4 to 6 people sing, and then they would be critiqued.
Oh.
They'd be given tips on how to make their performance better. Okay. Vocally, whatever it was.
Like
right?
the other students.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would sit back amazed at how good these quality of singers were. Like, I was just brought in on a probation basis where I may not even be that good, and here I am sitting amongst these quality students, and I see their voices, and I'm sitting in awe. Once this was done, these people that I was introduced to, who I all respected because their voices were incredible, were like talking trash on these other singers. They go, "Oh, did you hear how bad she was?" And da-da-da. And I'm sitting there like, "Are you guys high? Because that was really good. And if you think that she's bad, imagine what you guys are going to think of me."
Wow.
So I literally was able to escape that college without having to sing
Really?
in front of that group. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Which was the dumbest thing ever, because you want to put yourself in a position where, whether you think you're going to fail or whether you're going to think you're going to do great, to have someone who's been there, experienced, to be like, to tell you you could do better.
Right.
And to completely avoid that, like, oh my gosh. Not only that, but I allowed their opinion of somebody else ruin how I felt about singing in front of them. Like, that's huge, man. But, when you're young and you're a singer, and I was singing classical music, something that I knew nothing about. I was not in my area. I was out of my league. I felt it was very easy.
That's really crazy too. I mean, I'm going to tell you a quick story because it's almost similar. I was 16 years old. I was in high school in Mexico, and they just opened an art school in the area from Televisa, which was the main big TV station in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And there was an ad in the paper saying, anybody who wants to enroll, come and audition. And I was already doing theater, and I got on the bus. It took me an hour and a half to get there. I walked up to the door, and I saw some of these guys walk out, and they were like really good looking guys. And I felt so inferior that I didn't even go out in. I didn't even audition. I opened the door for them. They walked out. I turned around, got back on the bus. Another hour and a half, went home. And I mean, one of those things I'll never know.
Yeah.
If my career would have started then.
Yeah.
Instead of in my 40s, basically.
Sure.
So yeah, I get it. Does that still haunt you?
Yeah, it does. It does. But at some point you can't. I mean, haunt by the mean like I'm aware of it.
Okay.
To think back, like, who was that? Like, why'd you let that happen? But that didn't matter at the moment. I was just I was scared, and I didn't know who else. Who am I going to tell that truth to? At the same time, I had a cool counselor, and we were talking about how grades are distributed amongst the students, because at the end of every semester we had, what are they called? I think they weren't called recitals. What were they called? Essentially what we had to do is we had to go up we had to perform on our own, accompanied by a pianist, and sing a couple pieces that we've been preparing throughout the semester.
Like a showcase?
It's, what do they call it? Recital, rehearsal, judgments. Anyway, so it was all a judgment.
The crucifix.
It was all a judgment. That's what it felt like. I mean, it was nerve-wracking because you'd have your counselor, you'd have your private vocal teacher there, and then you would have the director of the music department there. And after the end of it, they would tell you, hey, good, bad, whatever. And then, I always walked away with like an A or a B, regardless of what they said. And knowing that, I had the conversation with the counselor. We were having lunch one day, and I don't remember how it came up, but essentially what he said was, look, if we didn't give A's or B's to these students, we wouldn't have a music department. So I go, man, you guys are going to be kidding me. Like, you're trying to help these people become better singers, but you're not really helping them more than that, just that, recital piece that they're working on. Well, like, where does this go beyond just the college? So there was a little bit of emptiness there. There was almost like a facade that kind of didn't hit me right. At the same time, mind you, I was doing the music thing with my band. So I kind of knew the reality of what it was like to go out and have to sell your music, write your own music, versus learning pieces that have been handed down for years, and you have to kind of sound, similar to the way it's been reproduced. Like, it's such a different world there.
What was your biggest lesson other than music takeaway from college?
From college?
Yeah. Or from that?
Man, there were a lot of lessons, and I think that the biggest one being that if you want a career in music, you don't need to go to a formal school to learn how to do it. So it's fortunately not like being, and I can't say that for all aspects of music, because eventually if you want to, I don't even know if that's 100% true either, but for the most part, if you're not scoring music for film, then you may not need that formal education.
Got it. And how about in life? What lessons in life did you get out of that time?
That you should believe in yourself. You should definitely believe in yourself. Because while I was in that department, I never felt like I fit it in. And I felt like a lot of what they were trying to teach didn't relate to what I was aiming for in life. Ultimately, I wanted to be a performer, whether that was on a big stage, getting paid on a smaller stage, like whatever it was, I wasn't getting that from the formal education that they were providing me.
Got it.
Right? So when I first entered to Cal State Long Beach, I was admitted as a business major. And while I was in class, I was thinking I'd rather just be studying music in hopes that it would propel me to what my goal was. But it didn't. I was just studying music that I had no interest in, that could be theorized and then, I guess, institutionalized.
Okay.
So that the teachers could better grade it versus an objective scenario or even business. Like, they didn't know quite the business of it. There weren't enough people there to...
So this was not at all like the movie Fame, where everybody just breaks out into dance and you're like, yes, this is life.
I've never seen Fame.
You've never seen Fame? Okay, you just made me feel really old. And
I'm assuming it was a musical?
Yes.
Or a Broadway show? Yeah. I've never was a fan of that. But those were one of the types of...
This conversation is over.
That was the type of music that I had to study. So imagine being put in a scenario where you were told to like study this, learn this, and I thought, I have absolutely no interest in this. I don't know how this translates to the discipline that I eventually want to move into, which was rock, a rock genre, different type of styling. I mean, the storytelling could be similar, but it just wasn't enough to really feel like I was aligned with my goals.
So once you get out of there, what happens?
So then, towards the end of the college career, I'm working with a hip-hop cover band where everything was live. So we had the live instrumentation reproducing what was being heard on the radio at the time.
Now, what year was this?
Oh, don't ask me years, man. I don't know. I don't know.
90?
So it's probably 2000, 2009.
Oh, wow, okay. So not that long ago.
No, it's hard for me to do things chronologically with numbers. I could just tell you college, post-college now. Yeah. So at that time, we're trying to figure out how we're going to make money because we're about to graduate. And so my drummer, he has a CD, and it's got audiobooks on there. Power of Positive Thinking, something about, I don't know, it was random. Something on science. And then eventually it came to the third book on there, which was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Mm-hmm. And it, to me, was an eye-opener. At that time, we were going through our recent recession where real estate was crumbling. The economy was doing terrible. And while that's all happening around me, I'm listening to this as I'm going to sleep. And it says, it said in the book that he was making a lot of money during that type of recession during his time. I thought, oh man, perfect. Sounds like that's what I'm getting into. So from there, they were advertising a free seminar. It was a free 2 or 3 hour seminar to give you an introduction to all types of real estate investing. So I fall in love with that. And then of course they upgrade you to these weekend classes for $300. I think it was $300 for you and a friend to come and learn a couple of topics. I said, great. Fell in love with that. I thought I could totally do it. Then they're like, great. In order to learn more, you're going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. And we're going to teach you. I said, great. Here you go. I had a credit card. I had great credit when I was in college. And so I took my drummer and I took my keyboardist, who was also the founder of the hip hop cover band. And I said, let's all team up on this. I'll finance it. You guys team up with me and let's get a business going where we can make some money. So again, I was put in that position where I was excited for my dream. I thought I could get some others excited for it as well. And eventually the drummer falls out. The keyboardist and I are still in together. We're trying to do everything we can to make it happen, but it, for whatever reason, it just wasn't, you know. We were doing everything we possibly could. At least I felt like I was. And when nothing was turning up and we were getting turned down, you know, getting told no along the way, meeting people that were supposed to help us, and it just kept. Right. We felt like we were just bumping our head up against the wall, and we were trying our best. And people were like, "You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it." And we're hitting our head, and we're going nowhere fast. No money's coming through when you're not making any money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been there.
So at that point, I had to make a decision. All right, well, we got to get some kind of job because we got to get some kind of money.
All right.
And so at that point, I went on to Craigslist and I was looking for different gigs to jump onto. That was kind of about the time that I was introduced into brand ambassador work. But then I found myself looking. I go, wait, I'm spending all this time looking, and I've already spent all this thousands of dollars on a real estate education that's supposed to give me an idea of how to run business. There's got to be something that I can pull from there and do something with. So I'm not waiting for other people to pay me or to give me the job to go to work for some money. And my buddy, the keyboardist, calls me up. He goes, hey, I think there's something here. I said, tell me about it. My uncle gave me 2 bicycles to sell. I put it up on Craigslist. It sold within 45 minutes. I was able to get him the money that he wanted, and I made some money. And I said, okay, well, we just learned how to wholesale some houses. Why don't we try to wholesale bicycles? So I'm going to put up an ad that says, we buy bikes. And we're going to try to get them at a low price. And whether we've got to fix them up a little bit or not fix them at all, just turn around and flip them. And that's exactly what we did. And within a short amount of time, maybe a couple of weeks of putting up that ad, and I remember the first one of the first responses that we got was for a big wheel, little wheel. That's the way that they described it. And what that was that old school bike where the wheel is about 10 feet tall in the front, and then the other one's just a few inches in the back. And they said, we got this bike and we got another bike. So I sent my buddy to go check it out because at the time I was getting around on a motorcycle. That was my main means of transportation. Wow. And so he was going to go pick it up. So sure enough, it was a big bike like that, but it wasn't going to fit in his Nissan Altima, I think it was. But he got the other bike that he was able to strap to the back. And so that's where we started. Wow. Yeah. And then within, 2-3 weeks of that, we got a response from a guy saying, hey, if you guys are serious, I have 100 bikes. So will you guys want to get these? And we found out that the guy was doing something that we wanted to do out in Riverside. And sure enough, there were 100 bikes strewn out in his backyard.
Wow.
Varying in conditions and types. And so he had a guy with a trailer. We loaded him up, and we made the drive back down over to my buddy's house, and we found a place to store him, and business is going.
So I wasn't wrong in saying in the beginning that you're just a natural-born leader.
I mean, I don't know about that. But I think that I can find myself in a position where it wouldn't be difficult for me to share my excitement about my idea, and then other people kind of jump on board.
But that's...
I don't know if that means being a leader. I think that those are characteristics of a leader, but I think for someone to be a leader, at least
like a duck, quacks like a duck.
I'm sure. Yes, quack. I don't know.
Good timing on that one. But I'm only going to say this because I've been called a leader, and I'm usually like, no, it's just something that was needed, and I needed it for myself, so I just put it out there, and people and they're like, well, that's a leader. Like you started it, you put the idea out there, people follow you. You're not the follower, you're the leader.
I don't know. I mean, what would be the difference between a leader and a manager? So I think that the reason I'm hesitant to use leader, because if I had to think back then, I don't know, man, that's a tough one. I don't see myself as a leader now because I'm in a different space, and the people that I respect, I look at as leaders, so it's difficult for me to align myself with that. Maybe back in the day, maybe for those other things, I was the leader. I guess there wasn't many options, and I had to take on that role. So yeah, I'm not comfortable with the idea of being called a leader. Not quite yet.
Because you definitely have an alpha energy about you. You've always have ever since I've known about you. And for those of you listening. In the brand ambassador page, there's at a time there's only like 1,000, and I knew like everybody on the page.
Yeah.
Now there's like 25,000. I don't know everybody, but I know of everybody.
Yeah.
So words, people talk, and you're like, oh, who would be good for this job? And names jump up, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's good, and you refer them and you recommend them. And I remember your name getting tossed around quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that guy's dude. And I don't think we talked about it. I thought you were overly cocky. I was like, this guy's obnoxious. He's so full of himself. But, it's what you see in yourself that you recognize in other people. And it's just like, wait a minute. I'm Daniel Garza. How dare you want to be? But it was just my own personal... I was feeling threatened because I knew the potential that you had.
Yeah.
And it was really exciting to watch you in action.
Yeah.
Because the first time I saw you actually work was in an event that we were all just hanging out, and you were just in control of everything. And I was like, wow, this guy's like, who does he remind me of? I'm like, oh yeah, like that's kind of what I would do. Like,
that's interesting because I remember being in that, getting mixed in with the people that we were working with. And I felt like I was actually reserved or drawn, especially upon the first meeting. So let's say we were hired for a 3-day job, right?
Yeah.
And usually my behaviors on the first day to kind of like don't insert my personality or myself yet, like let other people take the stage and then see where you fit in. I think because I never want to compete for the spotlight. If I'm going to be given the spotlight, I'm going to take it and run with it. But if I have to compete with other people, I'd rather just give it to them because then it becomes an ego thing. So I think that's interesting that you thought that I was cocky. I've been told that before, and I think that's unusual. I think there might be an assertiveness or a confidence that people might mistake. However, I understand what you're saying, that when you see someone who resembles your similar characteristics, you kind of feel like you're being confronted or challenged.
Yeah.
And it's a realizing that, man, this person is just like me. Yeah.
But that's that in itself. I know you're gonna hate this, but that in itself makes a good leader, where you can stand back and go, you know what? If I really wanted to, I could stand out right here, but I'm gonna step back and let other people be the stars right now because they need to learn how to step up.
Yeah.
So and that's what, I mean, I'm sure this has probably happened to you because there was many times where I show up and I wasn't a lead or a manager or anything, and I would just step back and be like, no, I'm just here to work.
Sure.
Like, I don't want a responsibility of it. I don't want paperwork. I don't want it. And then halfway through the shift, they're like, can you just take over? And you're like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And then by the end, you're just running everything.
Yeah.
But it was part of that. Like, you just sit back. And I think watching you was like, no. You don't get to sit back. I get to sit back.
Sure.
Like, I know where this is going. I know what's happening here.
Yeah.
But you have that, you draw people. You have a good personality. You have a good energy.
Thank you.
Not knowing you, I was always proud of you watching you work, because it was like, this guy's rocking it. Whatever you're going to do in life, you're going to rock it. So
thank you.
Yeah.
I have to say that the respect's mutual, because when I think of brand ambassador work, there was always a few people that actually worked versus just filling in the role, and you were one of those people that came to mind. And then also to have the initiative to start that brand ambassador group and see where it is now, I mean, that's respectable.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So now that we kissed each other's butts a little bit. So you start selling bikes, you start realizing the potential of wholesaling and advertisement and putting a little, I guess, elbow grease into what you need to accomplish what you want, I guess is what I'm going to. Where does your life go then?
So the entire reason I agreed to do the bicycle sales was because the idea was spurred by or fueled by the idea that I'm going to use that money and I'm going to finance the real estate side of things. So I was still going to go back into real estate, because in my eyes, wealth was made in real estate. Real money is made in real estate. The people that I respected were in real estate. And eventually, the agreement that I had with my partner, who's still my friend now, dissolved, because he was going to be doing more of the repairs on the bicycle, and I was going to be doing more of the marketing and sales, or even acquisition of the bikes. And he felt like he could do it, and he should do it all and get paid for it all. And I said that this isn't why I went into it. The idea was to partner up and move on together, but that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's cool. So just buy me out, and then I'll move on. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. So to this day, he has 2 stores, 2 brick and mortar stores that he's running. And I went along with the idea that I should be a real estate agent. And that idea was provided to me from a local real estate investor. And I thought prior to getting to become a real estate agent that being a real estate agent wasn't necessary to be a real estate investor, because that was my goal.
Okay.
However, he saw that there was a little bit of struggle for me to be an investor, to start off as an investor, that maybe I should take a different angle. So I started studying to become an agent. And at that time, my buddy who introduced me to brand ambassador promotions for Fisher Price gives me a call and says, hey, I've got a great position for you, working for a distributor of Anheuser-Busch. And I said, tell me more. Because he was essentially describing his job. And his job was to go out to bars and clubs with the credit card, the company's credit card, buy people's drinks, buy people beer, and just have a good time. So he said, you're going to do the same thing. And I said, yeah. And so I went to the interview, and I knew who the guy was interviewing me. He goes, I had no idea this is the world that you were in. I said, yeah, absolutely. So They asked me some marketing and sales questions that I was able to answer competently, and then also provide a personality, and they said, you're hired. So at the same time, when I got hired for that, I was able to get my real estate license.
Wow.
I didn't act on my real estate license. Not what I mean by act on that is I didn't actively pursue real estate. It was the side thing to my beer thing. So the beer thing was 30 hours a week. It was a sweet gig where my lifestyle was essentially provided and paid for. I mean, I went out and I worked, and at the same time I was socializing. It didn't feel like work sometimes. Right. So it was a great situation to be in. And then occasionally I'd stop by over at the real estate office, and I would field phone calls, because that was part of the job. Yeah. Once a week, or however often it was, answer phone calls, and maybe some business would come in. And at some point, business did come in. An opportunity walked in. The lady comes in, goes, hi, I need to speak with a real estate agent. I look around and go, I'm a real estate agent.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Mind you, I was not dressed like this. I was dressed in a button-up shirt, probably, a short sleeve, maybe wearing shorts, maybe wearing jeans, and some whatever sneakers, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. So no wonder she was probably under the impression that I was not a real estate agent.
So basically, you're dressed as a cabana boy, and this opportunity walks in the door.
Yeah, the opportunity walks in the door. And so fortunately, I was able to, figure out the basics, where she lives, how much she owes, and why she thinks needs to sell. And it turns out she thought that she was going to be underwater. So she'd rather sell now and then start repairing her credit down the line. I said, no worries. Let me do some research, find out what the value is, how much you owe, and we'll go from there. So the following day, we set up an appointment. So she comes in, and I've got the manager, and she was able to come in with her husband. And we said, great news. You're not going to be underwater. We're going to sell your house, and you're going to walk away with some cash. How does that sound? She goes, fantastic. So they signed the listing agreement right there.
Wow.
So what a lot of agents struggle to do, which is get a listing in this business, I just did completely by accident. It fell on my lap, which is what most real estate agents, are wishing for, praying for. That something will just land on your lap, which is it's like being hungry in the woods, and out of the tree a gazelle just falls dead, and you go, oh man, I didn't have to hunt, I didn't have to set a trap, nobody had to come and drag it over to me.
That's
I get to feast.
That's interesting, but yeah, I guess, yeah.
It was so phenomenal. On that Friday, we had that listing signed. Okay, that listing agreement signed. By Monday, we already had an offer, and we got it sold at asking price.
Wow.
It was fantastic. I didn't do anything. I mean, I did a little bit of work, okay? Fortunately, I had the experience and the know-how from learning wholesaling and investing strategies that I was able to value the property correctly. I was able to know what numbers to look at. So I wasn't a fumbling idiot. I was just a newbie who knew how to do a few things correctly. And I was able to get the client what she wanted. She wanted to sell the house. She wanted to make some money. I was able to protect her credit and help her move along her goals.
So how much, the percentages, how much was confidence and how much was knowledge?
That's a good question. I felt confident that I could do the job, perhaps because I also had the help of my broker alongside who was essentially filling out the paperwork. So when you've got to fill something out and you don't know where to look, like you start to sweat a little bit, you feel a little bit red. Fortunately, I avoided that the first time around. I think with being able to properly value the property, that I felt confident in doing that. So I think it was probably, for my first time, it was pretty much a 50-50 split.
So should we throw in mentoring into that mix? Because somebody was guiding you along the way?
Well, it's not that my broker was guiding me through the way. He was just there. I guess, yes. He guided me through the filling out of the paperwork. Okay. I don't think there was anything that he was saying that I didn't already know how to say, but I did have to learn through somebody else. So in that regard, through investing and attending a local investing club, where I got the advice to go and acquire my real estate license, that I learned some stuff through there. Right. So there was some mentoring along the way. It's not like I just kind of knew. No, I took classes. I spent thousands of dollars. So yeah, along the way there was mentoring and failures, and so I knew a little bit enough to get through.
Got it. Well, that's a really cool shot to have. First, I mean, I'm sure it took a little while, but to have that opportunity to do a negotiation like that, that has to boost you up.
The thing is that I wasn't focused on it, and I didn't even think of that being a cornerstone in my real estate career. I didn't think much of it. I was thinking, look, I'm doing this while I'm doing the beer thing. You know, I was having so much fun. I was doing a great job for the company. I was getting praises from people that I worked with directly, indirectly, and people that I've never met before. Right. So because it didn't feel like much of a job, and because it almost felt naturally, and because I had a mentor in that line of work that was working right next to me, the guy who introduced me to Fisher Price brand ambassador work, right. We were working together. So a salesperson was paired up with someone like myself. And so we were paired up together in the same area. So I've already seen him do his work, and along the way, he get to show me a little bit more. So it was such a smooth transition to that job, and embodying who he was, and then adding myself into it with what I believe was good work ethic and integrity. It was such an easy position to be into. And then all of a sudden to be given this listing, where in hindsight, like, could have opened up so much more for me, but I just didn't respect it for what it was.
Now, we're kind of getting to the point of the show where my guests throw out some words of wisdom to my listeners.
Okay.
So, Francisco, what words of wisdom do you have to share?
Whatever you go into it really hard. Don't be afraid to fail, and model yourself after somebody.
Interesting. Who do you model yourself after?
For real estate, I have my broker here who's very active in helping us build our business. So I'm able to follow his footsteps, and he provides instructions. So I'm modeling myself after him.
Mm-hmm. Any chance of going back into music?
No.
No?
No.
At all?
I have such a great respect for artists and even more talented musicians that it's kind of a joke. I mean, one thing, let's put it this way, I couldn't do it because I'd want to do it at such a high level that I couldn't compete with it.
Got it.
You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
I still love singing. I do vocal warm-ups every day. I still want to keep my voice nice. And if opportunity comes to do karaoke, I do it. But I just know that to reach a certain level, I just don't have what it takes. And took some self-awareness, and it's just something you got to accept.
What's your go-to song?
Oh, man. Anything by Incubus is great. Yeah. They're the band that comes up to mind, yeah.
All right, cool. I'm not going to make you sing, but I wanted to, but we'll do that on another show. We'll do that on a live show.
Yeah.
So because I keep going back and thinking about you as that little kid selling chocolate bars just to make a Disneyland. If you could go back and tell that kid, give him some advice, what would you tell him?
You know what? In all honesty, it wasn't the little kid that needed advising. No. It was that kid in high school, college. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, because just like we've all been through an awkward stage of how do we fit in with people? What are the people going to think of me? What should I do? And you're kind of influenced by the people around you and how you feel about yourself. And had I discovered, I guess, the confidence to believe in myself, at that point, like, who knows where I'd be at now. But you can't go back and you can't change it, you know?
But you're happy.
Yeah. I think I understand the question that you're asking. And you have to believe in yourself. Ultimately, it comes down to belief.
Right.
William Hung, he believed in himself.
Dude.
He went on went on to American Idol, and whether he knew that he was a shit singer or not, he had the confidence to go up on stage and try it. And because he tried it, he was able to have a moment that he'll never forget, you know? So at the same point, you have to be realistic with your expectations and know what you're good at and what you can be good at. But nonetheless, it all starts with the belief in oneself, and wherever that takes you is just part of the journey. So just belief. And in all reality, I still struggle with that on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I have to remind myself that I'm good, that I deserve it. I believe in myself to go get after it, and that allows me to move forward with my actions. So it's not that, you know, I understand that your name of the show or the theme of the show is, you know, how'd you put it all together? No one really has it all together. They're still figuring it out. And if they have it all figured out, they're either quitting or dying. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, because it's all comes with growth, and I've realized that too. You know, once I thought that I had reached a goal, you're always looking for the next goal,
right,
or at least the next challenge.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. After all the things that I've been through in my life, the last struggle was the cancer, after cancer, I was like, I'm not going to say no to opportunities. I'm just, even, I may be scared, I may not feel worthy of it, but if it lands in my lap, I'm going to take it. Stand-up comedy was the last thing I did. I took a stand-up comedy course.
Cool.
I went on stage, I did my set, and I had a great time, and I want to do more of it. I never thought I was going to ever do that, but once I got on stage, I was like, hey, people are laughing at my stuff. Like, this is good. I could do this later.
That's awesome.
So I definitely, I guess, part of the show, put it together. For anybody listening, if it lands on your lap, it's for a reason. The universe has delivered you something. Take it and run with it. See where it goes. You never know.
Yeah.
Like you said, you could be a William Hung that has, his minutes of fame, or you could be, a Kelly Clarkson and go on forever. Who knows?
Yeah, and that whole having it land on your lap, that failure or the success is, you could perceive it as it landing on your lap. So if you fall flat on your face, there's an opportunity there or a lesson to be learned there. Looking back on this conversation that we had, I'm thinking, man, all this wasted time that I spent on all these failures where I think I went wrong, had I just picked myself up a little sooner or realized that there's life after that, I definitely would have accelerated my life a little closer, a little further to where I'm at now.
I think that after doing so many of these episodes, a common thing that I've noticed among people who succeed in life, and that's taking every moment of life as a success. I got up, I went to work, I came home, I'm happy, success. I think the common thread is there's this creativity that just doesn't stop. There's this need to do things better, to do things faster, to do things and be happy at the end. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what's interesting is the definition of happiness is going to be different for other people. Yeah. So people are going to think happiness is, I went home and I'm like, I feel like this. Well, for other people, it's happiness is feeling like this, like, man, shit. So in my job, I have to do a lot of prospecting. So calling on people that I don't know, knocking on doors, people that haven't invited me, and getting accepted or getting yelled at. That fear of rejection is a real thing, and it'll wear you out. And sometimes you'll get rejected, maybe not so in a friendly way, more often than not, on a single day. And when you get home, you got to be like, man, I just got beat up. But that's a good thing, because tomorrow there's going to be another opportunity. And that's hard, man. That could be really hard. That's a real thing. I don't know if you have a big artists or musicians, a big following of that type of people. And I think that they failed to realize that too, that you got to go out to the auditions. You've got to go write a script. You've got to go get told no a bunch before you're told yes. And you sometimes have to look back at the people that you model, that you admire, that you want to be like, that helped you create that dream of being whatever occupation you want to go after, and kind of read up their story, and they might have a similar story to what you're going through now. So not all hope is lost, and there's a way to find your way to it. Sometimes getting beat up, you got to learn how to roll with the punches. I mean, these are taglines or whatever that are used, like sayings that are used all the time, and you're like, no one really gave me the nitty gritty of understanding what rolling with the punches is. Like, it's so much easier to say. It's like, oh yeah, rolling with the punches, but when you go out there and nothing's working for you for a long time,
amen, yeah,
and you want to give up, well, how are you going to roll with the punches, man? Like, it's been, let's say, 2 months. If, what you haven't gotten a call back, you gotten on auditions.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Is that a sign of you ready to quit, or is that an opportunity to realize who you are?
Yeah.
It all of a sudden fell on your lap. Be like, all right, who are you? How are you gonna interpret that?
Yeah, because there was more than one time. For those of you that, for the first time, I live in Laguna Beach, coming up for auditions, I just had to drive all the way to Burbank for an audition, which is about 15 minutes after an hour and a half drive. And then you're like, okay, I'm already up here. What am I going to do now? And then you go sit at Starbucks for 2 hours and write. And then you call people and you go and network. And then you have to drive back home and you're hungry. But then you sit on the couch and you're like, that was a was a good day.
Yeah.
Nothing really came of it other than the work that you put into it, but you're like, that was a good day.
Yeah.
Or in terms that we both understand, you go and work an event for 14 hours or 12 hours or whatever, setting up, working the event, breaking it down, drive home. You're home, sunburned, hungry, thirsty, and you're like, it was a great day today.
Yeah, because sometimes it's doing the work or going through the actions that you kind of enjoy the process. Yeah. You know what I mean?
My boyfriend never to this date understands. He's like, I don't get what you enjoyed of it. I'm like, I don't either, but I just know that it fed me. Like to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, to go set up an event, work it all day, manage people, control 100 people, break everything down, and then drive home. And like, you're just so tired you don't want to eat. And you're like, how was your day? You're like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it was great. And
I mean, for me, I liked it because in that line of work, we didn't have steady work. And when you weren't working, you had to look for work.
Yeah.
And so finally you get that job that lasts however many days it is. Typically it was a Friday through Sunday job, and you're happy to be there because you go, man, all right, I'm working. I'm working. I'm going to get paid after this.
Yeah.
And for the most part, those gigs were fun. You got to interact with the public. It was usually some kind of fun theme to get people involved with a product, service, or message that you're trying to deliver to people who don't know you. And as long as you had a big smile, people were responsive to you. And yeah, man, it was a good time. You didn't even realize you were working, so you're just there hanging out with people.
Buddies, yeah.
And eventually you do it long enough, they were your friends that were right next to you, and you've made the most out of it.
That's pretty awesome. We're getting to the end of the show. Any last words? Any last thoughts?
No, I think I said it. I feel like if I were to go on anymore, I'd feel like I have all the answers, but I don't. Yeah, I really don't. I just hope that somebody gets something from this. I don't know. I
think they will. I think where you are now to where you started. Again, I know it sounds like I'm kissing butt, but I'm not looking to buy a house right now, so we're good. But
then this interview's over.
Good spin there, buddy. Again, I when I first met you, it was just seeing the mirrors, like, oh, wow, this dude has something. Like, and there's a lot of people in the group that have that I know them, and I'm like, you have something. Like, if you just push it, and watching you, and then seeing you where you are now, and you're right. The last time we saw each other, you were doing the beer stuff. Mm-hmm. So you were in a t-shirt and jeans, and then you walk in today and you're all dressed up. For those of you who are listening and have not seen the video, wait to see the video. He's a little stud, and he knows that. So,
thank you.
You walk in and you're all dressed up, and I'm like, wow, like you look so grown up, so mature. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to work on it. I had to work on it. I sold that first house dressed in, I'd even wear beer shirts to go visit my client. Like that's embarrassing. I would never do that again. Now I need to show respect to the people that I want to work with and show that I'm a professional. And these are things that you have to learn. And when you're young and dumb, you didn't know any better. And then eventually you.
So before we go, because you are in real estate, somebody who's looking into starting courses or going into workshops or things that you did in the beginning.
Yeah.
And any pointers you can give them?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. What did it take to get the license? What's the best way to do it? So, first of all, the easiest thing in this business is getting your license. Regardless of how long it takes you to get that license or how difficult it is for you to get it, it's the easiest thing because you have to then find someone to sell a house to or for. And that's a whole different topic. But just do this. Go online. I went to Allied Schools. They have an online course. So my experience was I went on there, I entered my information, and they gave me a call back. And when I picked up the phone, they said, hey, do you want to go ahead and purchase the course for, let's just say it was $200 because I really don't remember. And I said, well, let me think about it. I'm out doing something. They said, okay, well, what if we took $100 off? I go, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and do that, which by far blew all the other courses away. So, boom, your education is negotiable. Start your real estate business by negotiating how much you're going to pay for your education. So do whatever you can to get it lower. They'll be more than happy to do it because there's a million schools out there. Just go with that. Second, prior to you taking your test, let's say that they give you a date for the 1st, look for a crash course that is offered the weekend before. So if it's on the 1st, then maybe on the 23rd or the 24th, it'll be a Saturday and a Sunday. This crash course essentially gives you the answers to the questions that's going to be on the test. So I pretty much had to do a great job of memorizing the questions and answering it. Take the test, you're done. After that, find a brokerage that's going to give you a plan of how to get business. Every brokerage is hiring. Every brokerage is going to praise you, and they're going to praise themselves. But can they provide you a solid, fundamental plan, realistic, proven plan to get you business? What are they going to do? And then go with that. And then get moving as fast as you possibly can. Because this will eat you up. A lot of people think that you get your license and you sit at a desk and the brokerage will provide you leads. They may or may not do that, but you've also got to know how to handle those leads and how to move someone into action. I mean, these are real skills that you've got to learn. And there's a lot of things that aren't discussed in reality TV shows or in the interview when you go speak with a hiring manager for a brokerage,
If people want to get a hold of you and have more questions,
call me. Yes. Text me.
Where can they find you?
714-326-6539. That's my cell phone. Text me. Call me. 714-326-6539.
Cool.
If you want to find me on social media, if you want to find me on email, text me. Call me.
And for everybody listening and or watching, you know that on Facebook, once this comes out, all the information will be on there. So find him. He is here in Irvine and Orange County, California. So if you're in the area and you're in the market for a house, sell, or buy, Francisco is your guy. Oh, that was almost a commercial.
Yeah, I'm your man.
Thank you so much for coming to the show, man.
Thank you so much. This is cool to talk. Yeah.
I've been after you for a little while. I was impressed with your story, where you were going.
Thank you.
So I'm more than impressed now. So
thank you.
We'll have to come back and do a follow-up.
Absolutely. I'd love to, man.
Maybe go with you to check a house or something.
We'll go look at houses.
Yeah. That would be fun.
That would be super cool.
That would be fun. So maybe guys stick around after this airs. Maybe we'll have a day where we can go and he could give us a tour of a house and tell us how to really look at houses.
Yeah. Or if they want to know how to buy a house or what makes a good deal, what makes a bad deal. I mean, there's so much in real estate to talk about that we could make it as interesting as your viewers want to make it.
We'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah.
For everybody listening and watching, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, manager, for letting us use the office here. Thank you to my producer, Mr. Kevin Moyers. Thanks for all your help and support. Thank you, sir. Go check us out at abnormalentertainment.com, where you can find all the shows on the network. Check me out at Put It Together Podcast on Facebook. You can find information on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Little Mexican or Daniel G. Garza. Go check that out. For now, this is Daniel Garza saying, hey, put it together.
This is how I put it together.
This is how I put it together.
This is how I put it together.
Subscribe to Put It Together on iTunes, Stitcher, and at abnormalentertainment.com/putittogether. Find Put It Together on Facebook and tweet Daniel at Lil Messican, LILMESICAN. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.